The journey beyond enlightenment is essentially the journey beyond the ego's fears and its incessant demands and the stress that creates in your life. Fear is a part of the ego's prison. It drives you to act strangely. You can change that. The world of the ego is not an authentic world, so what we seek to do in our journey beyond enlightenment is to arrive back at the authentic self, the feeling self. That is your true identity. It is the eternal you, and in it is the power of the knowing of who you are and what your life's mission is. Who are you? What are you doing here? What purpose do you serve? Once you can answer that, you disappear. Well, sort of. It's as if everything you think you are and your personality and all that you know and hold dear, your life story, the very memory of you, melts and disappears. And at the very end of the journey there is nothing there, just an eternal silence, nothing. Wow, just awe, an indescribable beauty and awe. It sounds strange, eerie even, but in fact it's very beautiful, because once you go past all the definitions of yourself, then you will also go past the pain, and you will eventually know who you are, what your life's mission is. You will see yourself beyond terms of enlightenment, beyond the arrogance of ignorance, and you will finally know the secret. It will bring you great joy. In later sessions, I'll talk to you at length about the resonance of your soul. You're a sound, an imprint that you make on life. That imprint of your soul can heal not only you and your loved ones, but humanity in general. And you won't necessarily have to hang a shingle on your door advertising your opening hours, as that may be too limiting. If your resonance is right, you will only have to walk past people and they will already begin to heal. To change your resonance is to change the resonance of the world. We define what we think we are. It makes us feel safe. So we work hard to become Harry the doctor, or Mrs. So-and-so the mother, the social worker, the teacher. These are evolutions of the mind and the intellect. But it can be a tiring and limiting experience. Playing out the role you have selected for yourself is often the recipe for a lot of pain, because your whole existence is framed in the definitions you and others have invented for yourself. They are emotional, intellectual clusters that you belong to, groupings of like mind, much like joining a golf club and being in the energy and cluster of golf and the mindset of golf things. In the end, you are vast and eternal, and all the silly rules and limitations will eventually melt and become meaningless and unimportant, for you are destined to arrive at the infinite you. You enter into the eternity of all things, where human titles and stuff, even the human body, has no meaning. You see, it's in the losing of the you that you think is you, that you eventually arrive at the new you, that disappeared identity. The human that had so much fear and pain is represented by a vast version of you, connected to everything, part of all the primal forces and the spirits of nature and angelic beings, and all manner of wonderfulness that exists beyond the memory of what I call stored pain, which are the ancient memories in your subconscious or your soul. Then the connection you make is one of pure bliss, and all the honor and reconciliation of that is beyond the light and the dark, beyond solid and not solid. It is a fusion of your soul, a deliverance from evil, a place where you hover as nothing and everything at the same time. It's a quirky thing to think of, but once you let go of what you think you are and the definitions that you are, then you can become everything. It's the bliss of belonging once more, the bliss of remembering. Let's talk about how to go from phony to authentic, and how you will turn your evolution to go the other way. For that will power you along, and you need that flip of perception before we can access anything else. Imagine it like this. Life for many is confusing and scary and rather brutal at times. It's a painful journey through the unknown. You have to struggle and compete and work hard to make ends meet. The ego soon builds a tower for you to live in. It feels safer. It protects you from dealing with people and experiencing pain and disappointment. You're elevated in your mind, anyway, above the crowd. From there you can gaze down on humanity through your separation and your imagined specialness, and you could sell yourself the idea that the destiny of ordinary people is not your destiny, that you've been elevated and chosen and made special. That is what the ego likes, to be higher and distant from others. That is why the ego likes observers and glamour. Observers make the ivory tower of the ego more real. And that is why people boast and show off and make a great story of their minor achievements. They seek recognition and status. They seek altitude for their ivory tower. The ivory tower is sustained by the electricity of the ego. The more electricity a person has, the more they can be moody and capricious and self-centered. The moody, demanding pop star is an example of the electricity of the ego running rampant. To sustain the power of their importance and their divine-like status, they need constant attention, constant input. It's a high-maintenance lifestyle. The ego drives people to seek that status and a position over others. Glitzy stuff, flashy cars, the red carpet, the VIP lounge, all create attention. The attention of others creates electricity for the ego. And through that incoming energy, the ego seeks to falsely elevate itself. It's our ego's way of raising itself up to the center stage. We seek electricity, external energy sources to hold us up. It helps us feel safe and less vulnerable. That is the illusion of specialness that comes from the ego's sense of separation. But that specialness often comes at a terrible price. For in the isolation of elitism and the ivory tower, you become ever so slightly mad. The electricity of the tower fries you in the end, as you will need more and more and more to keep the illusion going. It blinds you to reason. You only see your mind and your ideals and your terms and definitions. The other 6 billion people here on earth are more or less irrelevant, except as how they might feed the ego's needs. You're on top of the tower with an old rusty gun, marching up and down, guarding the edifice of your ideals. It doesn't really matter if your ideals are tiring you out, or if they're gradually killing you, as long as you're king or queen of the tower, and as long as you can shut out pollution in the form of contradictions of the ego, and/or the presence of other humans and other ideas. Of course, at the top of the tower, the madman or the madwoman isn't actually any safer than anyone else. The height is an illusion, and the protection is arbitrary at the very least. The reason is that the tower costs time and money and stress to maintain. You have to buy a car that is perhaps more than you can afford. Maybe you live in a place that is too much rent, that has trappings that have to be financed. And the ego will want this and that and then another thing. And soon you are its slave, rushing about trying to give it what it wants. And it usually wants one thing after the next. Take a moment and take a good look. What is your ivory tower made of? Are you a prisoner of stress and your ideals? Are you spiritually trapped? And being up there can make you lonely and isolated, and usually you'll be very cold spiritually, even though you may pretend to be social and warm, while in fact you see everyone as dispensable, and perhaps you treat them with disdain and indifference. Your ego acts as the ministry of authorized information. It's up in its madhouse, and anyone contradicting the edicts of the Minister of Information is due for annihilation, or you'll banish them from your world and send them away. People that contradict information you hold to be true have to be made wrong and belittled. This is the controlling mechanism of the dark side of mankind. It's our attempt to impose ourselves on others. We know best. We are the divinely selected ones, the chosen ones. All others must be heretics and heathens, because they don't agree with us. And of course they are not quite as special and chosen as the fool on the tower, for he or she is divinely selected to be something very important and very special. Most religions and most spiritual groups and philosophies, they create the sense of the enlightened being as being a superior being. Here are the ignorant people, and here is the enlightened Bubba on the path who has the answer, and so on. So it's this idea of, let's say, the Pope is infallible, that this Bubba over here is enlightened. And of course, these are elitist concepts. They are concepts that seek to raise a human above others. And so we must worship this being and kiss his toe because he's enlightened. And so that's the old-fashioned way of looking at enlightenment. But the way that we deal with enlightenment in this audio series is to understand that enlightenment is a trap. The minute you sit at the crossroads and you're enlightened, then you need a throne and a cushion, and you need cellos around you, students, you need to create an ashram. It's all the world of the demigod again. Or you're some grand bishop or cardinal and you have a throne and fine robes and a gold chalice to drink from. And all of that is a construct of ego. It's a construct of control, where these priests and these enlightened beings will establish control over the lesser mortals in the congregation. But we see enlightenment as basically a con. It's a place to get stuck. If you're stuck on the throne, if you're stuck on the pulpit, if you're stuck as an enlightened being, you haven't got anywhere to go. You just create this ashram around you. And so what we say is, like, enlightenment is utterly worthless to you, because we seek to retreat, we seek to go sideways, we seek to become nothing. You know, if you had all the power in the world and you could literally materialize things out of nowhere, you couldn't show it to people. Because if you did, you would become like a magician on TV. You would have followers and worshippers, and you would be controlling the people by your power and their lack of power. So that's why all power is hidden away, all true knowledge is hidden, and the only knowledge that's available is the fake knowledge. So you read these documents, you read this dogma, and they seek to entrap you. They seek to take you away from where you find yourself, the society and the ideas that you were born with or those that you feel comfortable with, and they seek to impose another set of rules. And those set of rules almost always involve subjugating yourself to them, to the meditation group, to the church, to the ashram, to the whatever it is. So they're all basically forms of entrapment. And what we seek to do is to become unentrapped, so to speak. We seek to say, look, this enlightenment thing is a crock, because I don't want to sit on a throne and have hundreds of followers. What I just want to do is have the knowledge and the power. And I do understand that once I have the knowledge and the power, that I'll not be able to show it to anybody, but it doesn't bother me, because in my heart I want to serve humanity. But I don't have to be aware of the fact that they're aware or not aware. Like the idea of the initiate that can walk through a village, change its evolution, bring calm to the village, because the initiate's heart, her heart or his heart, is resonating at such a pulse that the imprint that the initiate puts on the village calms everybody and wakes them up and makes them more aware. And then the initiate walks out of the village and they never did figure out who on earth she was or he was. He just stood at the well for a day or two and talked to a few people, and that was all he did. So that's the idea that we're coming to, that true power is always hidden. True knowledge is not available. The only knowledge that's available, generally speaking, is the lies. I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Masaru Emoto. He's the Japanese professor that has photographed frozen water crystals. He would hold a tube of water and write on it the word Hitler, and then he'd freeze the water and take photographs of the water crystal, and they would come out all dark and chaotic looking. Or he writes the word joy on the label, and the water crystals form like a beautiful snowflake. Professor Emoto's pioneering work really highlights for us the effect you have on your surrounds and the way you imprint light for the better or for the worst. Almost all of your body is water, so you're a mobile puddle. It travels around with you, warping reality or healing it, depending on how you feel and express yourself minute by minute. The water crystal of what you are is very important. It travels around with you. When you're warm and tactile and you genuinely care for humanity from your heart, you push away the imprint of negative dark beings, and you draw to you the beginnings of a celestial dimension. A mini heaven on earth walks around with you. When you're cold and you seek domination and control over others, or you seek vengeance, or you wish others ill, you fall into the arms of the darker forces. It's easy to do. We all fall the other way at some point in our lives, as the ego likes power, and it seeks vengeance, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. All sounds pleasing to the ego, but that is the loveless world of the phony self. There you can find justification for all sorts of nastiness and silent crimes against humanity. It takes a brave person to go the other way and offer forgiveness instead of seeking vengeance. You may think that salvation comes from being special and chosen and part of some elite system. Dream on. Elitism is very dark, as it excludes others. In fact, deliverance comes from ordinary and human, and not needing to be special. Drop being special and you are already walking in the right direction. Part of the reverse perception I speak of is hard to see, for we're all programmed to seek satisfaction and to seek the attention of others. Yet the right direction is to seek to become humble and sensitive towards others. And rather than asking how will life sustain you, you should start to think of how you might serve humanity. Spiritual empowerment, the journey beyond enlightenment, doesn't seek to make you more special. In fact, it seeks to liberate you from the need to be special. It liberates you from the need to hold up the ivory tower, the need for more and more. When you watch TV, you'll see one guy that claims he's the world's greatest crocodile catcher. Then another fool claims he's the world's greatest bounty hunter, and another is the greatest running back, and here's the greatest chef, and there's a whole host of the world's greatest rappers, hip-hoppers and flip-floppers making incredible baskets on the basketball court. And in the end, they're all mad fools on the ivory tower, calling out to the heavens saying, "I'm the greatest, the king and queen of the castle. I'm squeaky clean and special and different. And I'll be forever immortalized in my deeds, fully selected by God and special. That is what I am." Imagine if you didn't have to be special. How weird that might feel for some. Maybe it would feel really liberating. People could ask you, "Are you the world's greatest blah, blah, blah?" And you'd say proudly, "No, I'm not the world's greatest anything. I worked terribly hard to arrive last." The trick is to arrive eventually at nothing and not be the world's greatest anything. Quite the reverse. I've learned a very simple secret, and that is to retreat from the world of boasting and to step back into silence and the comfort of the forest. I found it best to let all those on the ivory tower push and shove and compete while I stand off and watch. I feel safe because I'm not sticking out in the crowd ready to be knocked off by another competing ego, and I'm not in the competition of humanity at all. The trick is to agree to lose. You don't have to win. Agree to be last. Be happy with last. People might say, "Aren't you bothered that you have to wait in line while other important people in front of you go ahead?" And you'll say, "No, it doesn't bother me where I am in the line." The people that need to strive and push and fight to go first will burn themselves out and become sad. And while they may be first in today's line, tomorrow they won't have a place in any line, and that might upset them. So I'm happy to take whatever place in the line no one else wants. My place in the line is irrelevant, as I'm busy watching a sparrow talking to another on the roof over there. Now here is a reverse idea that's quite exciting that might impel you to a new perspective. What if I told you that you could easily become one of the most powerful people in the world, and that you could have vast energy, so vast that you could get almost anything you wanted just by deciding to materialize it in front of your very eyes? But there's a few catches. First, you can never tell anyone that you have the power, and you can never do anything in front of people that might give them that idea, or any showing off like that. In fact, to make it, to keep to your agreement, you will actually have to be anonymous about it all. And sometimes you will purposely try to look like a bit of a fool and a bit of an incompetent, so that people never twig that you know what you know. The next catch, you can have anything you want almost immediately because you can materialize it. But because you have that power, you'll never be able to use it. The reason why you can't is this. You are here to work and love and understand the earth plane. You are here to transfer energy to others. That's it. You can't use it to enhance your ego and become the world's greatest something or other. You can keep bits of it and make your life easy and flowing, but you can't hoard the power. You have to get rid of it as it comes into your life. Otherwise, you'd be misusing the power just as everybody else tries to misuse it. If you're serious about going beyond enlightenment, what you're saying is you will work silently to become enlightened. You'll never tell a soul once you make it. Almost all the initiates I know, the ones that have a real command of the hidden door, are very humble and very anonymous. You would never spot them in a crowd. They don't have to say much because they do know. You're going to go beyond enlightenment because you don't need enlightenment. It's a trap for the spiritually elevated. You probably knew that, but maybe you needed me to remind you. The fact is, the more inner power you have, the less you will ever be able to show anyone. So then you may say, listen up, Stewie Bubba, what is the point of striving to acquire perception and abilities if I can never show anyone or make a profit from it? Well, what's the answer? What do you think? Here's what I learned going down that way. All great power is always hidden, so it can pass through the night and rescue people from their ivory towers, from their tormented lives, and to love and serve humanity to a better end. That is it. In rescuing people, you'll have more than anything else in the world. People will be pulled to you endlessly. It's an etheric thing. It's in your life force energy. You can help people without their knowing, without their ever having realized that you helped them.